Imagine buying a house, right? And when you finally look at the deed, it lists two completely different architects.
Oh, that would be a nightmare.
Seriously. Two different construction dates and two completely clashing blueprints for the exact same property.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what modern readers think they are looking at when they open up the first two chapters of Genesis.
Yeah, it really does look like that at first glance.
Because you read through chapter 1 and you get this sweeping, majestic account of the universe being built from the top down.
Right, the big cosmic picture.
Exactly. But then you flip to chapter 2 and the story just seems to start all over again. I mean, the sequence of events is rearranged, the focus is entirely different, and honestly, it can feel like a massive, glaring contradiction.
It does. I mean, for a modern reader who is so accustomed to chronological linear storytelling, it feels like a textual collision.
Yeah, a collision is a good way to put it.
Because it is incredibly easy to look at these two creation accounts sitting side by side and just assume that someone in the ancient editing room made a massive blunder. Like they just awkwardly pasted two competing myths together with zero regard for continuity.
Well, today we are going to show you why viewing this as an editorial mistake completely misses one of the most brilliant, deeply intentional literary designs in ancient literature.
Yes, it is so far from a mistake.
We are jumping into a deep dive on a textual analysis titled From Elohim to YHWH, The Dual Portraits of Creation. And our mission today is basically to strip away our 21st century reading habits.
All right, we have to put on ancient lenses.
Exactly. We want to understand how an ancient audience actually consumed these texts. We promise a lot of satisfying aha moments without getting bogged down in overly academic jargon.
Because we really need to see how these chapters act as a sort of cinematic zoom in.
Oh, I love that term.
Yeah, it fundamentally shifts the way we view the creator, the structure of the cosmos, and humanity's ultimate job description.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out what is happening with the nature of God in these texts, we first have to grasp the architecture of the stories themselves, right?
Yeah, we do. We have to look at the literary structure.
So think about it in terms of modern filmmaking. Genesis 1 is your sweeping, wide-angle drone shot.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a massive, pristine estate being constructed.
Yeah.
You know, the camera's hovering high up in the sky, showing you the grand property lines, the massive structural pillars, just the sheer scale of the architecture.
It's the big establishing shot.
Right. But then the director cuts to Genesis 2, and the visual language completely changes. The camera drops from the sky, switches to a handheld Steadicam, walks through the front gates, and just starts following a single groundskeeper getting his hands dirty in the garden.
That visual shift captures exactly what is happening in the ancient Near Eastern literary style.
So this was like a common way to write back then.
Oh, absolutely. In the ancient world, it was actually a standard practice to structure major narratives this exact way. You establish a general, overarching macro narrative, and then you immediately follow it with a localized, highly specific micro narrative.
So the ancient audience hearing Genesis 2 didn't think, wait, this contradicts what I just heard?
Not at all. They understood it as a deliberate zooming in of the lens. They expected it.
That makes so much sense. So Genesis 1 is setting up the macro. The text is detailing the cosmos as this ordered, functional temple.
Like a dedication ceremony for the universe.
Right. Then Genesis 2 zeroes in on the micro, giving us a day in the life of the gardener living inside that specific sanctuary.
And doing that requires a profound shift in perspective. You know, chapter 1 presents the cosmic architect. The primary concern is the functional structure of reality itself.
Like separating the light from the dark, the land from the sea.
Exactly. But then chapter 2 presents the intimate craftsman. The entire cosmos just fades into the background and the focus shrinks down to the breath and the pulse of the human being.
And as that camera zooms in from the cosmic void down to the dirt of the garden, the text does something that is, frankly, easy to miss in English.
Oh, but it is completely radical in the original Hebrew.
Right, because the name of the creator actually changes to match this new intimate perspective. In Genesis 1, the creator is exclusively referred to as God, which is the Hebrew word Elohim.
Yes, Elohim.
But the moment we cross the threshold into Genesis 2, the text abruptly shifts, and he is called the Lord God, or YHWH, Elohim.
It's a very sudden, very deliberate switch.
But wait, looking at the underlying Hebrew syntax for a second, the source points out that Elohim is technically a plural noun?
It is, yeah.
So does that mean Genesis 1 is implying a committee of gods building the universe? Like, are we
Yeah.
looking at a polytheistic remnant here?
That is a very common stumbling block for readers diving into the Hebrew grammar for the first time. Elohim is indeed a plural noun derived from a root meaning strength or power. However, the syntax provides a crucial clue. Whenever the text uses Elohim to refer to the God of Israel, it pairs that plural noun with strictly singular verbs.
Oh, I see. So the noun is plural, but the action being performed is singular.
Exactly. Which tells the reader this is not a group of deities acting together. It functions as what linguists call a majestic plural.
Kind of like a monarch using the royal we.
That's a perfect comparison. It is an honorific structure designed to denote supreme, encompassing majesty. Furthermore, Elohim is not really a personal name. It is a title.
Like calling someone the president or the king.
Right. It translates closer to the mighty one or the sovereign. It represents a transcendent power, a God who is so far above the material universe that he orchestrates galaxies by simply speaking.
So Elohim is essentially his cosmic job title.
You could definitely say that.
But then we hit chapter 2, and we get YHWH, which is often called the Tetragrammaton because it's made of 4 Hebrew letters, right?
Yes, exactly.
And most of us know that the all-caps Lord in English Bible stands in for YHWH. But what we often miss is the sheer literary whiplash an ancient reader felt when the text suddenly dropped the cosmic Elohim.
Oh, the transition from a title to a proper name is monumental because it switches to that sacred, hyper-intimate proper name.
What does that name actually signify to an ancient listener?
Well, the meaning of YHWH is tied directly to the Hebrew verb to be. It signifies the self-existent eternal I am.
Wow.
But more importantly for the narrative, YHWH is the covenant name. It is the specific name used when the Creator steps out of the cosmic throne room and enters into a personal, binding relationship with humanity.
Which makes sense, because when God speaks to Moses at the burning bush generations later, he doesn't introduce himself with his cosmic title.
No, he
He
doesn't.
gives the personal name YHWH.
Which signals a massive shift in relation.
Right.
You see a transition from the distant, untouchable sovereign of the universe to an intimate partner. And you mentioned the English formatting of the word Lord in all capital letters. That actually stems from a profound historical reverence.
Right, from the ancient Jewish tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the personal name, YHWH, was considered too intensely sacred to speak aloud,
Yeah.
ancient Jewish readers developed the tradition of substituting it verbally with the word Adonai.
Which means Lord or Master.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they would see the 4 letters of YHWH on the scroll in front of them, but their mouths would say Adonai.
Oh, I love that detail. So modern English translators want to honor that ancient tradition of reverence while still signaling to the reader what is actually written in the Hebrew text.
What's fascinating here is that when you see the Lord printed in all capital letters, the text is essentially waving a flag at you.
Saying, hey, the intimate personal name of God is being used right here.
Precisely.
That is such a vital layer to peel back. Because
Yeah.
we go from Elohim in Genesis 1, the transcendent king who simply says, let there be light, and reality just bends to his will, to YHWH in Genesis 2, who suddenly gets his hands deeply immersed in the dirt.
The majestic king becomes the divine potter.
The language in chapter 2 is intensely anthropomorphic. I mean, God is described using very human actions.
Yes, very tactile.
He is forming the man out of the dust. He is breathing life directly into his nostrils. He is physically planting an orchard. He is building the woman. It's a staggering contrast to the booming voice from the void in chapter 1.
It really is.
Yeah.
But we have to unpack the mechanics of that anthropomorphism. Describing an infinite, uncontainable God with human-like actions forming, breathing, walking.
Right.
It isn't meant to suggest that God literally has a physical body with lungs and a circulatory system.
Obviously not.
It is a highly sophisticated literary tool. It paints a picture of a deity who is intimately, physically invested in the flourishing of his creation.
I see.
It's the difference between an architect handing over a blueprint and a father building a crib with his own hands.
That is a beautiful analogy. He anticipates the human's needs before the human even realizes what is missing. Like, he sees that the man shouldn't be alone before the man ever complains about isolation. And the actual creation of that first human is layered with a Hebrew wordplay that is just brilliant poetry.
The linguistic connection there is foundational. So the Hebrew word for the man is Adam,
Right?
And the text explicitly states he is formed from the dust of the ground, which is Adama.
So Adam comes from Adama. It is the equivalent of naming a person earthling because they are made from the earth, or
Exactly.
calling them dusty because they come from the dust. We are literally named after the mud we were pulled from.
And that binds human identity inextricably to the physical environment, which brings us to a massive pivotal point in the narrative.
Because if humanity's very name is derived from the dirt of the ground, what exactly is their purpose inside this carefully curated garden?
Right. What is their vocation?
Because in the macro view of Genesis 1, humanity's vocation is described as dominion. They are established as royal image bearers, standing as representatives of the sovereign Elohim over all creation. But zooming into the micro view of Genesis 2, that vocation becomes highly specific and localized.
Yes, it does.
They are given work. They are essentially hired as groundskeepers.
And if we look at the specific Hebrew verbs used for this work, we uncover a massive historical and theological connection. The text says humans are placed in the garden to work it and keep it.
Okay.
The Hebrew words there are abad and shamar.
Abad and shamar.
Right, and these are not standard agricultural terms. Later in the biblical text, abad and shamar are the exact same verbs used to describe the sacred duties of the priests serving inside the Israelite temple.
Wait, really? The exact same words?
The exact same words.
So the Garden of Eden isn't just a primitive farm, it is a proto-temple.
Yes. The cosmos itself was viewed by the ancients as a macro-temple, and the Garden of Eden serves as the Holy of Holies.
The inner sanctuary.
Exactly, the inner sanctuary where the presence of God dwells completely unmediated. Therefore, the humans are not just farmers, they are commissioned as priests. Their job is to serve, protect, and maintain the sanctity of that sacred space.
Here's where it gets really interesting, but honestly, it has always felt a bit perplexing to me, like a logical trap.
I think I know where you're going with this.
If God is this deeply invested craftsman, right? Setting up humans as beloved priestly partners in a pristine sanctuary, why put a restriction in the garden at all?
Tree.
Yeah, placing the tree of the knowledge of good and evil smack in the middle of this perfect environment feels less like establishing a boundary and more like planting a landmine.
It definitely feels like that to us today.
Why introduce the mechanics for catastrophic failure?
Well, it absolutely feels like a trap to the modern mind. But we have to look at the mechanics of ancient Near Eastern creation myths to see what this text is actually doing in its original context.
Okay, what do those myths say?
If you read Babylonian or Sumerian epics, like the Enuma Elish or the Atrahasis epic, the gods create humans for one very specific cynical reason, which cheap labor. In Atrahasis, the lesser gods actually go on strike because they are tired of doing the grueling work of digging canals and maintaining the earth.
Oh, wow.
So the supreme gods create humans out of the blood of a slain rebel deity purely to bear the yoke of the gods' labor.
So humanity was literally created to be a race of disposable slaves.
Precisely. They were mechanical tools meant to serve lazy deities. But Genesis 2 radically subverts that entire cultural paradigm.
How so?
The restriction of the tree, the command not to eat from it, isn't a trap. It is the absolute prerequisite for moral agency. You have to understand the mechanics of free will here.
Okay.
Love, partnership, and genuine obedience require the option of rejection.
Oh, because if you don't have the option to say no, your yes doesn't really mean anything.
Exactly. If the humans couldn't choose to disobey, they wouldn't be partners. They would be biological robots.
They would be the exact same slaves found in the Babylonian myths.
Yes. By placing a boundary in the garden, God is elevating humanity. He is treating them as autonomous moral agents with the freedom to choose whether to trust the craftsman's wisdom or to define good and evil on their own terms.
That is fascinating.
Having that capacity for choice is what elevates them from mere creatures to genuine participating partners.
And if giving humans a choice is what elevates them to partners, that completely reframes how we view the creation of the other human in the garden.
It certainly does.
Because you cannot effectively exercise partnership and moral agency in a vacuum. The solitary human needs a counterpart.
Right. And the text highlights that the animals, while made from the same Adam and the same ground, are not suitable partners.
Because they don't share that equal moral agency.
Exactly. So the narrative moves to the creation of the woman, and the mechanics of how she is created are vital. The text says she is built from the man's side.
Which is usually translated as rib in English, right?
Right. Yes. But rib is an overly anatomical translation of the Hebrew word sila. Interestingly, CLA is used elsewhere in ancient Hebrew architecture to describe the side of a building
Oh, interesting.
or the lateral chambers of the temple itself. This deeply reinforces that temple motif we discussed earlier.
That keeps coming up.
It does. But practically, taking the woman from the side of the man was a profound revolutionary symbol in the ancient world.
It's a statement of radical equality. She isn't taken from his head to rule over him, and she isn't taken from his feet to be trampled by him.
Right.
She is taken from his side to stand shoulder to shoulder with him.
The man's reaction upon seeing her, declaring her bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh,
Yeah.
is a covenantal declaration of absolute parity.
They are equals.
They are two equal halves required to fulfill this priestly vocation. It is a partnership perfectly designed to reflect the harmony and order of the sanctuary they were commissioned to protect.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out and look at the whole picture? We have two completely different lenses that are meant to be overlaid on top of one another. We have Genesis 1, the macro view. Elohim, the majestic king, structuring the cosmic temple by the sheer power of his voice, establishing humans as royal representatives with dominion over the earth.
Yes, the wide shot.
And then we have Genesis 2, the micro view, YHWH, the intimate, deeply invested craftsman, breathing life into earthlings, treating them as moral agents with the dignity of free will, and commissioning them as priestly gardeners in a localized sanctuary.
To the ancient mind, these are not two disjointed, competing stories clumsily stitched together.
Right.
They are two vital halves of a unified theological reality. In fact, the text explicitly forces them together.
How does it do that?
If you look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, which acts as the literary hinge swinging between the cosmic account and the garden account, the author deliberately combines the titles into a single compound name.
The Lord God.
Yes, YHWH Elohim.
It's a definitive statement proving to the reader that they are looking at the exact same deity, just from two different focal lengths.
It is the ultimate theological synthesis. The author's demanding that the reader hold two seemingly paradoxical ideas in tension.
Okay.
The profoundly personal, covenant-keeping God who walks in the garden, YHWH, is the exact same infinitely powerful, transcendent creator, Elohim, who fashioned the galaxies.
Wow.
You cannot fully understand the nature of God or humanity without holding both the immense transcendence and the radical immanence together.
It completely revolutionizes the reading experience. When you approach this text, you are not sifting through the messy mistakes of an ancient editorial team.
No, not at all.
You are looking at a masterclass in intentional literary design. It is meant to show you that humanity holds a dual identity. We are cosmic representatives of an unstoppable king, and we are intimate caretakers working alongside a loving craftsman.
It challenges the reader to view their own existence through both of those lenses simultaneously.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on what we've just explored. We talked about those ancient Hebrew words for working the dirt in the garden, abad and shamar.
Right, the priestly duties.
The exact same words used for serving and protecting the sacred inner sanctum of a temple. If that is the original foundational blueprint for human vocation, how might that change the way you approach your actual daily life?
That's a great question.
How might it shift the way you view your mundane 9-to-5 job, the way you tend your backyard, or the way you interact with your local community, if you actively treated your own physical environment not just as random material space, but as a literal sacred temple entrusted to your care?
It's a huge paradigm shift.
It takes us right back to the beginning of our exploration. What looks like a frustrating contradiction at first glance turns out to be a brilliant design, inviting you to see both the creator and your own daily purpose in a complete